Thanks, Steve. And now I'm mayor and not an architect. I don't have slides. Anyway, welcome to Bristol. It's great. A special welcome to Wolf and Jamie, who have come from afar to be here, and Chinese guests and others that have taken the trouble to come all this way. And to all of you from all over the United Kingdom, it's just brilliant that you come to Bristol, and at such a good time, because there are exciting things happening here. And I think that I've learnt so much as an academician going to those cities in Europe that Steve went through, and to other cities around this country. And I owe a lot, I think, to the Academy for finding myself being able to run a city, because I always believe that learning from other places is by far the best. Why are we Green Capital next year? We follow Copenhagen, we follow Stockholm, we follow Hamburg. Those are great European cities, and our intention is to match those cities in other ways. We'll always do things differently, and I think Bristol, is caricatured as being a place that does things differently, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we're the one city out of 10 that, when asked whether they wanted an elected mayor, decided they did want an elected mayor, and then were brave enough to elect an independent and an architect to boot. So we are a city that does things differently. I think we were boosted by the fact that we were Academy of Urbanism's European city in 2009, if I'm right, if it was 2009. I think it was, Steve. So what characterizes Bristol? My predecessors, and I give real tribute to my predecessors in the city, who saw fit to decide that Bristol would aim to be Green Capital in 2003, before the thing was invented. So it was just a name. It was, let's have an aspiration to make Bristol a much greener place. And I think what has made Bristol the city it is, and why it is a bit different, is that, in fact, it's made of things bubbling up. It's sort of great place in spite of its governance. And I continue to say that while being responsible for its governance, because I think the greatest responsibility of anybody leading a city is to encourage others to do things, encourage invention, encourage enterprise. And that is what has made it a good place. And so Bristol set up a partnership of all these people, of community groups, of environmental groups, of small and large businesses, and the public sector agencies, to work together to try and make this city worthy of being a European green capital with a very sustainable living agenda. And Sue is going to follow me talking about that sustainable living agenda and be more specific about that. We've got various projects that make that a reality. We have our own pound, and that may seem like a trivial thing, but I think it's become a major symbol of the way Bristol works. What we regard as a sustainable city is one that is economically sustainable above all else. And for economic sustainability, you want to spend your money where it's going to circulate within the city. It's not about being a small island, but it is about supporting the independent enterprises, those businesses that are made in the city and that make the city. If I go and spend that pound in my little North Street shop that was featured in Steve's in Steve's presentation, then it's going to be spent by the deli, in the bakery, and it's going to circulate in that local area. If I go and spend it in the so-called co-op or Tesco's, it's going to be sucked straight out of the city, and there is no benefit to this city apart from the small and rather mean level of employment that some of those organisations deliver. So that has become a real benefit to the city. I take my pay in Bristol pounds as a mayor, so that I'm encouraged to get my hair cut by by a barber that I don't go to the hairdresser, I go to the barber, that takes pints. I buy my bike from them, and I buy my food. I go out only to restaurants that take them, because that means I can be that much more generous. So how are we running Bristol Green Capital? I think it's a triumvirate. It is a triumvirate of that group that I talked about, the momentum group, as we call it, that brings together all those various interests. It's a Bristol Green Capital company that we've set up to deliver the year, but we're seeing it as 3 years. We're seeing it as much more than that year, and that is a very professional company that is semi-detached from the City Council, so that it belongs to the whole city. And I think the advantage I have as mayor, as a leader of this city, is I'm a leader of the whole city. I'm not a leader of the City Council. I'm able to bring together all those public and private interests across the city to work together, and that is vitally important. Then the third leg of that triumvirate is the leg that delivers the legacy, and that is the City Council, because you need that City Council organisation to deliver on energy, on transport, on food, and all those things. And then I have this overarching role of leadership, and I think that's vitally important. And I think one of the big issues about leadership is the people that you bring in to help you with that job. And the first 18 months has been very much one of getting the right people in position. And I'm fortunate now that we have a total new team at the top, including Barra, who I think you heard from yesterday, Nicola Yates, who is the city director, and a strategic team of 5 at the top that have bought into this whole mayoral model and are partly here because of it. And that is absolutely essential when you're running a city of nearly 500,000, is that you've got really good people to work with. And I think the other really encouraging thing is I try to be as independent politically as I can, but I work, and I have to work with all the 4 political parties. Actually, there are 5 now represented from yesterday on the City Council. 4 of them are in my cabinet, and they work extremely well together. And they leave their party politics out of the door when they're making the strategic decisions that we have to do together. I believe that now the city has given me a mandate for change, but change is a really difficult word. It's a really difficult concept. Change is judged, I've discovered, more out of fear than hope or experience. And so one needs to be able to demonstrate that experience of what happens in other places to be able to reduce that level of fear, because an awful lot of the change has got to be both carrot and stick. And when I'm bringing in such changes as reducing the maximum speed in residential areas to 20 miles an hour, including to bringing in residents' parking zones, and you'd think in Bristol that I'd invented them. And they bring out tanks in opposition. Literally, they bring out a tank in opposition to my residents' parking zone. So you've got to be tough. You've got to stick to your principles, and yet also listen and adjust and recognise that everywhere is a bit different. And I think that is vitally important. So it's a combination of being tough, yet listening and adjusting and making sure that you bring enough people with you to get things done. And I think another great advantage of being an independent mayor is that I sit with the 8 leaders of the core cities of England. They're the 8 principal cities outside London. They're all Labour-led. They're all led by politicians who put city first and party politics second, nevertheless. And I think that I've learnt that there is no such thing as a party way of dealing with infrastructure, as a party way of dealing with housing. That we have to do that as a city. It's got to be about putting your city first. And I think that is good leadership. But I think I give advantage to those core cities of giving them an independent voice, and therefore preventing them when we're making our case to government as 8 cities, that is after all a bigger proportion of the England's economy than London, that we do so as cities rather than as a party group. And I represent the environment and sustainability and energy and resilience on their cabinet. So I'm in a very strong position to spread the green agenda amongst those cities as well. So far we've become the most walkable and cyclable, I think, and no doubt the greenest of those core cities. I mean, for instance, we have more people cycling in Bristol, a hillier city than either Birmingham or Manchester, but we have more people cycling in Bristol than Birmingham and Manchester put together. And if that is in terms of people, when they have far, far larger populations, certainly when you put them together. We are the greenest city in the terms of taking our waste out of landfill into reuse and into proper recycling, which we're doing so at a much, much higher rate than than all other British cities, and up to the rates of many European cities. And I'm absolutely determined that we deal with all our waste within the city. We're setting up our own municipal energy company, taking the lead from Germany and other places that realize that cities should be responsible for keeping their own lights on. We shouldn't always be looking to central government to invest in huge big bang nuclear plants. We hope they're not big bang, but nuclear plants that are downwind of our cities. I take my lead from Freiburg on that. It was opposition to the nuclear plant near Freiburg that led them to become Solar City. That is our intention. We may not be able to stop the nuclear plant, but we can stop it being a diversion from doing the things that we should be doing. And that is certainly something that lit up the European Commission that interviewed us and the European Commissioner himself when we were up for European Green Capital. What else lit them up? I think the fact that we put children absolutely at the heart of the life of this city. I've got a tree planting program where every primary school child, and this is something I brought in before I knew we were going to be European Green Capital, where every child plants a tree and learns from that tree. They've even learnt about archaeology, digging holes and discovering stuff. It's not just about food. It's not just about the environment. It's not just about the ozone layer or whatever it may be. It's not just about climate change. Learning from planting one tree gives you enormous agenda. I want to make quite sure that we have a Bristol curriculum that is a really environmental curriculum, that contributes to the national curriculum. So there will be a Bristol curriculum that grows out of European Green Capital, and that is part of the funding that we have won from the government when I went to the Prime Minister with a specific ask for the government to invest in green capital, because it's good for them if we can be that demonstration city and provide those demonstrations. We'll be producing a Bristol Prize that is a prize for clean technology. Part of my job is to make sure that Bristol is on everybody's tongues. When you're in European conventions, when you're across the world, that people are talking about Bristol. As a result of that, we've got the Rockefeller Foundation nominating and naming us as one of the world's resilient cities. 33 of those so far, 5 of them in Europe, and we are one of them. We've got the Bloomberg Foundation shortlisting us for the Mayoral Award, for the Mayoral Challenge, and we have a great challenge around local food. I want to make quite sure that we change that whole food culture, that instead of all the farmers around Bristol, 95% of the farm goods around Bristol get sold to the big supermarkets, gets trucked up, I don't know, to Middlesbrough or somewhere, it is wrapped about 3 times, has fresh stamped on it, and comes back again or goes somewhere else. I want to make sure that we deal directly with those farmers, that we set up our own local cooperative enterprises, that every community in this city is involved in that. And that brings me to the involvement. I think the essential thing about a green capital is that it's not about the usual suspects, that it is about the poorer areas. It is about fairness. It is about spreading and making relevant the message that this is about the personal family economy. It's about saving money on energy. It's about healthy eating. It's about dealing with obesity. It's about all those issues that bring it really close to home to everybody in this city. And that's why I want to make quite sure that it has a very wide cultural spread and includes the incredibly diverse communities that we have in this city, coming from Africa and all around the world, that make this so much a diverse and interesting city to operate in. But what was the absolute killer that made us European Green Capital? I think it's because we approached it with a sense of fun. We said if it's to engage with everybody, it cannot be preachy. It cannot be telling them that what they do is going to make a great difference to their grandchildren or to climate change. It's got to have a sense of fun. It's got to engage. And I've made it absolute priority to open people's eyes to another way of doing things, to a different language. We open streets. We don't close roads. We open streets to people. We have a program of making Sunday special, a day when we can experiment. And experiment is really important, I think, in showing people that there is a better way of doing things. Experiment's really important in opening citizens' eyes to their own city. And I really pay tribute to people like Jamie, who did that in Curitiba, and to other South American cities that followed Jamie, like Bogota, and so my lessons come from Bogota, Bordeaux, anywhere beginning with B or with C, and I think learning from other cities is always going to be vitally important. So thank you all for being here. If you want to follow a real mayor, do follow me on Twitter on George Ferguson X, which is either a kiss or a vote or something else. Please enter the conversation, because I want Bristol to be in everybody's conversation. I want to make quite sure that the Farrell Review is tested here, for instance. And I think I want you to think about what you would like to use this city for as a laboratory for change. We're not guinea pigs, but we are up for a bit of risk. Thank you very much.